right, hi everyone. How you feeling? It's the last talk of the day, so hopefully everyone still has a little bit of energy. And this is actually probably my last digital nomad talk ever. I'm retiring from the business. I've already handed off the Nomad Summit to Christoph and Kai. And today I really want to leave every single person here in the audience especially, but also the people watching on the videos with all the life lessons and digital nomad lessons that I've learned. Just so you'll have kind of a feel for the audience, is anyone here, like who here is actually kind of getting started or just trying to start a new business and not really 100% sure what you're doing? Can you raise your hands? All right. And then who here actually is on the other side where you already have a business, so you have money coming in and everything, but you're not really sure what the next step is? Very cool. So I'm really going to have something for both of you, for both audiences. But as you can see, the last Nomad Summit was actually right here in Chiang Mai in 2020. Do you guys remember January 2020, anyone? Those are the days. And after the summit, we went to the Sticky Waterfalls here in Chiang Mai, one of the many, many kind of trips that we've done as a nomad community. And everything changed from that day on. Our next event was scheduled for Tbilisi, Georgia. Has anyone been to Tbilisi or Georgia? All right. Did you like it? It was the next nomad hotspot. And I don't know why. I felt like it was my job to try to look for the next nomad hotspot when Chiang Mai was already great. But I was traveling everywhere. Everyone said like, oh, you should go check out Spain, you should go check out Vietnam, you should check out Bali. And I would go to these places, like, okay, what's the next nomad hotspot? And it wasn't until I went to Tbilisi that I was like, I think this is it. It was, at the time, it was super cheap, lots of nice apartments, cost of living was low, had lots of nature around, food was amazing, and you get a 1-year visa on arrival. Like everybody almost. Like you just show up, you get a year. And they even used to give you a bottle of wine when you showed up. They were so happy. All that has changed, though, sadly. Now it's super expensive. I don't remember how many, but a lot of Russians moved to Georgia. Now they're also having a lot of protests, and I hope not, but there might even be some kind of war happening there because the government is pro-Russia, but the people that are protesting are not. And it kind of reminds me of what was happening in Ukraine in 2014, 2015. So Tbilisi, unfortunately, got canceled. Not because of that, I couldn't predict the future, but COVID postponed it. The world was closed. The airports were closed. And I decided to move on. I said, you know what? Maybe this is my calling, my time to just retire and say, you know what? I've accomplished all my financial goals as a digital nomad. After about 10 years of traveling around and moving around all the time, I wanted a home base. So I bought a old house in Ukraine. Not the one on the bottom, the beautiful one, but the 100-year-old apartment on top. I spent the next year renovating it. I was like sanding the old doors to try to restore it. I had my contractor, restore the old bricks and the ceilings. And I chose Ukraine mainly because they had a really good permanent residency program if you invested 100 grand. Everywhere else, like Portugal, Spain, they needed a lot more. And places like Greece and Turkey, I was like, I don't really feel 100% comfortable there. Like, it's not really my home. But in Ukraine, for anyone who's been there, especially prior to the war, has anyone been there? Wow, actually, surprisingly, a lot of people. It was an amazing place. Like, it was, I don't want to say people were friendly because nobody's smiling, but people were like good people, So there were people, they were always very helpful, it was very safe. Restaurants and cafes were amazing. Internet was even faster than here in Chiang Mai. Cost of living was low, it was very walkable, great public transport. It was an up-and-coming city. It kind of reminded me of San Francisco in the 2000s or 90s, when every month there was like new restaurants opening, new cafes opening, like new apps being launched. Big tech-heavy place. So I got permanent residency there. And I thought that's where I was going to live. I was still going to travel back to Thailand to spend the winter, but I was going to spend the majority of time there. And the war happened. 1 month after my place finished renovating and I moved in, while I was literally hanging artwork and celebrating the night before with champagne, Russia invaded. It was something I never thought could happen. I'm sure many people in hindsight were like, oh yeah, of course Russia was going to invade. Like, didn't you know they were on the border? They've been threatening. But the problem is, life in hindsight is very 2020. We all feel very safe where we live. We feel like we're in sovereign countries and in a world now where there's plenty of food, nobody's starving. There's plenty of water to drink. Like, everyone has plenty of land. Like, nobody needs to fight anymore. No one needs to start a war anymore. But we forget that the world is unfair, and sometimes things happen. My other choices, were, Bali, right? A lot of people go there, move there, buy a villa. You know how many times they've been this close to having a volcano or some kind of flood or typhoon to wipe it out? Even my home country, where my parents are from, Taiwan, they've been threatened by China to be invaded like every 5 years. Korea seems like a very safe place, but people forget North Korea is on the border waging war with them. Even here in Chiang Mai, we feel so safe. War is happening 5 hours away. Do you know how close that is for someone to drive 5 hours and you can wake up and be like, oh my God, what happened? And I like that we have talks dreaming about the future, dreaming about a utopia, dreaming about what an ideal life would be. But the fact is, nobody really knows what's going to happen. And all we can really do is try to follow our hearts and make the most of it, but also be prepared. So I don't want anyone to feel bad for me, because I was in a very, very fortunate situation. Yes, I put my heart there. Yes, I put my investments there. Yes, I put my future plans there. But I have a U.S. passport, and we're backed by, by freedom instead of healthcare. If you've ever seen this meme, let's just say that. I still, have enough money where I can buy another apartment somewhere else. I can move to Chiang Mai. I can move to Bali. I'm very, very fortunate. And right before all this happened, I actually had just sold all my businesses. I kind of just disappeared off of the nomad scene for a while. And I think it was just because of burnout. I think we had a couple talks today about the balance of being a digital nomad and burnout. After 10 years, I almost guarantee every single person is going to want to settle down, buy a piece of property. It might not be in your hometown. It can be here in Thailand. It could be somewhere else. But it's just a trend. You can't really do anything for more than a decade straight, especially when you're hustling and you're grinding, and just want to continue. And no one ever talks about what the goal is. Like, what is the goal of being a nomad? Like, what is the goal of doubling your business and hustling and making more money? And I'll tell you right now, it's actually pretty simple. It's to enjoy the journey. So don't think so far ahead of like one day, I'll get there, I'll reach my goals. Because as someone else earlier today mentioned, like, the fact that you're here, that you can travel, you have location independence, that you have community, that you have the freedom and the time and money to be able to come here, like, this is already winning. And I was very fortunate where I hit my 2 milestones, financially at least. I retired my parents, and I had enough in my own retirement account where my biggest fear in life of growing up, being old and being broke, and being a burden on my friends or family or society, I knew that would never happen. So today, I want to leave every single person here with the tools, at least financially, to be able to get to that point. You can at least get that goal. Because if it wasn't for having those 2 things, my life would be much worse than it could be. So the very first thing, this is really for people who are just starting or thinking about starting a new business is monetize what you already know. When I first moved to Thailand, I came to do scuba diving. I also got into Muay Thai, kickboxing. And the only other skill I had was I was blogging. I wasn't making any money from my blog, but I just liked blogging. I don't know why, I just liked sharing my story and sitting down in a coffee shop and writing. So scuba diving doesn't make very much money. It's kind of a loss leader sport. I was never good enough at combat sports or Muay Thai to ever become a champion or to really have a paid career doing it. I think the most I ever earned was 6,000 baht for a fight, which doesn't get you very far. And my blog didn't really make any money either. But I was a little bit desperate. I had my 6th pro fight, and I couldn't walk because I had broken a couple of small bones here and there. And I'm sitting in my 4,000 baht a month apartment overlooking the gym, and I hear people training. And I'm looking through the window, and I'm like, oh, I can't even train because I'm injured. What can I do? I was tired of scuba diving. I did it for 5 or 6 years prior to that. I've now spent the equivalent, if you add up the hours of time I've spent underwater, I've spent the equivalent of 1 month underwater. And as much as I loved it, it was enough, So I thought, okay, what can I do? What skills do I have? How can I make money online? So I Googled it on my laptop, overlooking the gym. How to make money online. And I read an article, and I kind of just skimmed through it, to be honest. And I was like, nope, don't have those skills, don't have these skills, don't have these skills, don't know how to do that, don't know what that is. And I saw, write a book. And I thought, yeah, I guess I'll write a book. So I wrote a book called 12 Weeks in Thailand, The Good Life on the Cheap. This is a non-paid model. And surprisingly, it sold. Actually, in retrospect, it wasn't that surprising because it was 5 years of my life and the lessons I learned that took a long time and effort to figure out how do you move to Thailand and pursue your hobbies, to do Muay Thai as a career, to do scuba diving as a career. It was a valuable book. It was worth much more than the $13 it took someone to buy it. And I already had an audience because when I was blogging, even though I wasn't making money, I was giving value and people were learning from it. So when I put the book for sale, people were like, yeah, I'll support you. I'll buy your book. I want to learn more. The very first few months, selling it on just as an ebook, I made about $5,000. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Or maybe that was the kind of lifetime for the ebook sales. I put it on Amazon. And then in total, I made $8,000 on Amazon. And this isn't, life-changing money or anything. I'm sure some people in here make, much more than that. But as a person who had no income, that was living in Thailand, fighting for 6,000 baht, this was life-changing money. And more than anything, it allowed me a way to stay in Thailand, and not have to go back to the US and look for a job. So why am I sharing this with you? And it's because I want to tell you that as long as you're creating value, everything works. Here's just a random list of different, online businesses that you can do. But to be honest, now in 2025, if someone asked what they should do, I probably wouldn't say be an entrepreneur and start a business. The reason why I told everyone to do that back in 2016 was because it wasn't very popular for a company to let you work remotely. Really COVID changed that. Now, it's almost kind of silly to hustle for 4 months, to invest your time and money to try to build something to make $2,000 a month, when you could just work for a company and make maybe double or triple that. Or if you're American, maybe even make like $100,000 a year just to work from Thailand. So now you have remote work. Now you have all these tools of earning money. And I want to caveat this saying I haven't built a new business the last couple of years since I've sold it, so I don't know what the latest, greatest trend is. But what I can tell you is that even when I first started, this is like 2013, 2014, people were telling me, it's too late for that business. Like that, that doesn't work. That's too hard. Here's 5 reasons why I shouldn't do it. Can you imagine if you told your friends, or worst, you just asked in a Facebook group or on Reddit, should I write a book? Is this a good way to make money? How many people do you think would tell you no? How many, I don't want to say excuses, but how much pushback would you get from people saying, don't do it? Don't do it because of X, Y, and Z. Or there's too many books already. No one reads anymore. People pirate. There's audiobooks now. People are lazy. People, half the world's illiterate. Who knows? All right. There's AI now. All right. Like there was always an excuse not to do something. And I guarantee for every single thing on this list, there was a reason not to do it. And luckily, I wasn't smart enough to research any of it. I just wrote the book. I'm also very happy I didn't look up dropshipping, because if I looked up, should I start a dropshipping store, what do you think I would read? Dropshipping is dead, dropshipping is a scam, dropshipping doesn't work, there's too much competition, right? And the thing is, I don't know if it's too late now, because I'm not starting a new business today. So don't look at me, for example. Look and talk to your fellow people in the audience at lunch, during coffee breaks, when you ask people, what do you do? And when they say, Amazon, all right, here's an example from last night. And I don't want to call out whoever it was, because it's not just you. I've heard this literally a million times over 10 years. Someone said, I'm just getting started, I don't know what business to get into. And the other person, which was probably well-meaning, presented himself kind of like an expert, and he was like, oh, what are you thinking about doing? And he's like, oh, I'm thinking about doing dropshipping. Dropshipping's dead. He's like, oh, well, I'm thinking about doing Amazon FBA. It's like, oh, you can't do this anymore. That's also burnt out. 5 years ago it was great, but now there's too much competition. And then he started listing like a bunch of different businesses, and there was always a reason why they shouldn't do it. And even though I wanted to butt in and say something, I also knew it wasn't really my place to lecture them. And I was like, I just want to listen and see what people are talking about. And also, I wasn't sure, because I sold my businesses. I don't even know if it still works or not. So I just listened. I listened all night. And the very next conversation was with a person saying they do FBA, and then a person saying they dropship. And I asked, just out of curiosity, I'm like, oh, how's business going? And the FBA guy said, oh, amazing. Like, we had our best month ever. And the dropshipping guy said, oh, yeah, it's fantastic. My wife just found out today that we can sell the business, if we want to in the future, and we can get $400,000 from it. So the dropshipping guy was making $15,000 a month in profit, which is way more than I ever made from my stores. And the FBA guys were making around $25,000 a month in profit. And I was like, okay, yeah, but when did you start the store? Have you had this in a while? And they're like, oh, this is brand new. It's a brand new product. And I was like, oh, I guess it still works. So, for those who don't know what dropshipping is, it's just a business model where, it's e-commerce, you sell things online, but instead of you warehousing it or building it yourself, you just become an authorized dealer for a product or a brand. And when people buy it, you have the manufacturer ship it directly. An example would be this big TV screen. This might actually sell well. I haven't done the research, but I don't know where to buy these. I don't know if you can buy these on Amazon because they're so big. But I will guarantee you, these are pretty expensive. The people who want to buy them, they need to do a little research. They want to go to one dedicated website to see all of them in one place. And it's not like the manufacturer expects you to have a minimum order quantity of 1,000 of them. They're probably just selling one at a time anyways. So if you made a store and you convinced a dealer, a manufacturer, to let you to sell these, and you just said to them, hey, instead of you shipping it to my warehouse first, can you just send it directly to the customer? most likely that manufacturer would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Or maybe the margins would be a little bit different than if you order 10 at a time. Either way, it's just a business model. I think the reason why it kind of got ruined, a bad name, was there was a bunch of people who had actually never even started a real shipping store. They just made courses about it because they're like, oh yeah, I read an article, I'll just make a $10 course, and we'll sell stuff from AliExpress. Now, I spent so much of my time fighting and trying to convince people, like, no, this works, this is a real thing. I even offered my tax returns. I said, I pay taxes on the sales I make. You can contact the IRS, you can talk to my tax accountant, they're here at the conference. Just ask them what I make. And I was still so unsure that I was like, you know what? Maybe I just got lucky. Let me try another business. Maybe I don't want to just tell everyone to do dropshipping. Let me try to figure something else out. So I had heard about something called Udemy that had just started, that already, if I was smart enough to look it up, some people would probably say, oh, it doesn't work. And nowadays, I don't know if Udemy is still, the best place to start, but what it is a place to host your online course. I'm sure there's other platforms now, that you can host it on. So maybe it's not Udemy, but for the rest of life, people are going to want to learn stuff online, especially now we're in a digital age. So I thought, okay, I'm dating an English teacher here in Chiang Mai. This is 2014. I don't want her to have to be location dependent. I want to be able to travel. So what can we do together to be able to have an online business? And I said, yeah, let's try this Udemy thing. I have no idea if it works or not. She had a psychology degree, and back in the day, I used to be really shy and really socially awkward. So we made a course called Small Talk. It was very basic, eye contact, how to introduce yourself, how to shake hands. And that course and all the other ones combined has now made each of us $22,000 from something that we're like, oh, I don't know if this will work or not. But what I want everyone to get out of this is everything works as long as you're creating some kind of real value. If you're selling a product from AliExpress and lying about how it actually looks and performs, the whole Temu joke where you get something that's smaller than you expect it to be, don't do that. Sell a product and deliver a good product. You'll have return customers, you'll have happy customers, and you'll be able to sell the business for 3 years of profits in the future. And remember, I'm not the example of I solved everything, I'm the best businessman, because I'm not. I just liked telling people what I discovered. So I had a podcast called Travel Like a Boss, and on it I interviewed over 250 digital nomads, and I just asked them, what do you do for work? And whatever they did, from selling on Amazon to being an artist to being a UX designer to doing all sorts of things, I would ask them oh, how'd you get started? How can someone get started now? How much do you actually make from it? Things like that. And one of the people, she had never heard of Udemy until me and my girlfriend at the time had just casually mentioned it once, saying, oh yeah, we're making Udemy, we're doing pretty well. And she doubled down on it. And not only did she make $22,000, she started making that per month. And her niche is in thrifting. Does anyone know what that is? Just buying secondhand stuff. And she asked me, she was like, do you think people will buy a course on this? And I was like, I have no idea. I don't buy second, I'm not that fashionable, and I also don't buy secondhand clothes. But I was like, is this something valuable that people like? And she says, yeah. And I said, then do it. So whatever you end up doing, double down and continue with it. Don't listen to what other people will say. Just create value, put it out there. But most importantly, don't stop. Because once you have the ball rolling, you think you can take a break and start over again. It is really hard. And this applies to everything. This applies to fitness. All right, this applies to entrepreneurship, to business, even speaking a language. If you stop speaking a language for 2 years, guess what happens? No habla español. All right? Once you're at a peak and the ball is running, just keep at it, because you don't know what life's going to throw at you. And sometimes it's going to be unexpected. It could be this. This was 1 hour after Russia bombed a children's hospital near my house. I went there and it was still on fire. I didn't expect to move to a country where 9/11 would happen every week. I didn't expect to meet people who would lose their homes or lose their lives. I never wanted to be a war journalist. I just wanted to be a digital nomad selling books. But I also realized that maybe I was in a very fortunate position, or maybe not for me, but I was in a position where I can do something. I was probably one of the only Americans there with the YouTube channel that can show what's happening, because unfortunately, all attacks, all wars in the world are gonna be filled with people, misinformation and propaganda. And I felt so bad for the people there that were just innocent people being blamed for something that had nothing to do with them. And I thought, what? I have this YouTube channel, I have this audience, maybe I can use it for good. So that's what I ended up doing. And I never would have been able to do that, and volunteer and spend my time becoming like a full-time volunteer the last 3 years if I didn't already reach my goals. I could have been balling out the last 5 years, renting luxury villas and popping bottles and doing all this stuff. But instead, I saved 80% of everything I earned while I was a nomad. When I was making $600 a month, I put $20 aside. When I was making $20,000 a month, I put $16,000 aside. And I just put it into like a very basic index fund. I did a whole talk about how to retire as a nomad. But this isn't anything special. It's just like a Vanguard low-cost index fund where they just invest in every stock in the US and then also international. So as long as the world doesn't completely collapse, it should just continue going up. But the reason why I share this is my 2 goals were retire my parents and then retire myself. And this little graph here kind of sums up the last 10 years. I literally had $200 in my bank account. I had almost nothing invested for the future. And I started saving, and it was hard in the beginning. It's really hard. You don't really see it moving. And then things happen and it dips. You're like, oh man, this isn't working out. But you're like, okay, I'm just gonna keep scrolling away. It goes up and then dips again. You're like, oh my God, what's happening in the world? Just things keep going not my way. But as long as you just continue at it, it grows and it grows and it grows. And eventually you're at a point you wake up one day, I'm like, I guess I'm okay now. I can stop working. And I can do things that really matter. I started working as a volunteer English teacher in Ukraine. Not because I like teaching, but just I felt like there was something I can do to give back. I helped start a school for refugees when the war first started. I spent the first year just trying to plug the holes from before, until the bigger aid could come in. We literally prevented, some people from going hungry in the beginning of the war, getting cold. But as that big aid came in and as people moved, I moved on to helping the military. And I thought I had a lot of haters, from being a digital nomad and just being outspoken and talking about things like dropshipping or talking about even being a nomad. I still get messages or comments saying, digital nomad is a scam. And I'm like, everybody works remotely now. But when I started helping Ukraine, even when I was helping the kids, I got death threats from not only pro-Putin, pro-war people, but even pro-Trump, people who somehow politicize this war, even though it has nothing to do with, politics in America. or shouldn't have anything to do with it. But for the last 3 years, I went from helping humanitarian, like even buying like washing machines for orphanages that just didn't have another way to have clean clothes, to now helping the military with like medical evacuation. One of my friends he was here at the Nomad Summit, he's now a volunteer medic, and he's literally saving lives by pulling people out of rubble or out of homes that were evacuated. And they didn't have vehicles to do it, where they would get blown up all the time. So I thought, you know what, with my reach and audience, I can help raise money for that. So I've been doing that for the last year. And this is what I kind of want to leave everyone with, and the reason why I'm giving this talk is I've learned so many lessons in the last 10 years of doing this. Not just the 5 that will help you financially get to where you want to be, but also just in life. Whether you're selling a business or you decide to settle down, you decided to buy a home, you get married, have kids, it will happen. Like, even though you don't think it's going to happen now, and maybe not all of them, but I guarantee you one or the other is going to end up happening. We are going to change. We're evolving people. And it's not a bad thing. But it will change you. It'll change your priorities. It'll change your life. If I didn't buy a home in Ukraine, if I didn't meet all the people, if I didn't have that connection, I would have been like, oh man, that sucks. Like, let me just move to Thailand and forget about it. But because I had the connection, I feel like, you know what? I guess I'm here to try to help. But one thing you can do if you want to kind of minimize the stress and the downsides of getting too emotionally attached to somewhere is don't buy anything. Just rent. And the hack is to do like a 2-year contract. You can still have your stuff there, you can still decorate it the way you want, you can still have all the benefits and upsides of having a home base. Because I know it gets tiring moving all the time. But don't put your money anywhere. Just rent. Thank you so much. If you want to know what I've been up to the last couple of years, follow my YouTube or my Instagram.
Wow. Really, really good, Johnny.
Yeah.
You see, people are standing up for you.
No.
Look at that.
Sit down.
We're gonna take a quick selfie. Well, not selfie, but just a picture. Everybody.
Wait, who has a disposable camera?
Oh, that's a nice one too.
Someone gotta come up with it.
We need a disposable and this one too. Both. No. Lazar, take
Both
it.
of you.
Take the picture. Come take the picture. It's
Come on
your
up.
camera. Okay.
Gonna do a selfie mode, like backwards or what?
Yeah. So, should we do like shout out Nomad Summit or something? Okay.
Just stand up. We can be
All
all
right, yeah, stand
photo.
up. Yeah, right. Let's do it.
Don't let me step back too much.
Take a few. Video. Let's do a video. Okay, we're gonna shout Nomad Summit in 1,
3, 2, 1. Nomad
Nomad
Summit!
Summit! Woo! Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys coming.